Hey, it's Angela with FoodStorageandSurvival.com, and today we're working on another project for my 18th century food preservation display at the Colonial Heritage Festival this summer. Today's project is pemmican. And pemmican was popular through the end of the 18th century and into the 19th century. It's a great little product because it preserves meat, which is tough to preserve, and you can take it with you. It's packable. It's easy to pack and take with you. So it's also been called the ultimate survival food. All right, so we're going to get started on this project today, and let's go look at what we're going to make it with. All right, let's take a look at the ingredients we're going to use to make this pemmican. The first is dried meat, and we cut this meat across the grain. And I have a video to show you what across the grain or with the grain means, and you want it cut across the grain so that it's easier to chunk up. Traditionally this was made with bison, but we have elk, so elk or deer or moose could also be used, or just beef. Just go use beef. Make it with beef because that's easy to find. I've dried it until it's crispy so it breaks right apart. It's not chewy. And then put it in my food processor, and it came out as a dry, crummy meat. Right, so we have pulverized meat there. And then we're going to use Fatworks tallow because I don't render my own, but you could if you are that ambitious. And then the third ingredient, which is optional, is dried berries. And because I'm making these kind of early in the summer, we do have some raspberries going in our yard, but the kids are eating them quicker than I can get a hold of them and make something out of them. So I was going to dry my own raspberries. Now this would have traditionally been with a choke cherry or something else, but I wanted something with a little bit of tang to it. So I was going to do raspberries, and then couldn't get enough off of the bushes that we have, so I'm going to cheat and use freeze-dried raspberries. And because these are measured by weight and not by volume, my freeze-dried berries should work out just fine here. All right, so those are our ingredients, and we will get started mixing this up. We're going to melt the tallow and use equal parts by weight of meat and tallow. And then, according to the one recipe that I'm looking at, it's about 8 ounces of meat, 8 ounces of tallow, and 1 ounce of dried berries. So we're going to do that depending on how much meat I end up with, kind of work with what we got in those kind of ratios and add some berry and see how it comes out. We'll check back in on this in a minute. All right, we have our meat and berries crushed up and stirred together, and our melted fat. And we're going to pour that melted fat over those, stir it together, and then I've got some forms lined with wax paper to press this into, and these are just Rubbermaid containers. I know, totally 18th century, but we're going to pull them out of there before I put them on display. I just want to give them some shape, so I'm shaping them into a block. And I ended up with about 11 ounces of meat, and so I have 11 ounces of tallow and just under 2 ounces of the, ooh, that was crazy. Just under 2 ounces of the berries. And dried, like dehydrated berries and freeze-dried berries are going to weigh the same. But they'll have a little different volume. Dehydrated berries will shrink down a little more, and freeze-dried berries are not going to lose their shape or size when they're dried. So I just went by weight. All right, that looks delish. Okay, we're going to press this into these forms here, into these little molds, and have pemmican when it cools off. All right, there's the pemmican pressed into the molds, and we're going to let that set in there and cool. And you definitely want to have these molds ready to go because that tallow wants to set up and be when it hits room temperature, it's a solid. And so it cools relatively quickly when you mix it in with the beef and the berries that are not hot. Wanted to set up pretty quick, so have those ready and you'll be able to press them in there. And we're just going to let that set and solidify, and we'll pull them out and check back with those at the Colonial Festival. All right, thanks for joining me. It's Angela, foodstorageandsurvival.com.